Attend Mr. Netanyahu's remarks on Wednesday, remember this as they rise time and time again to give him standing ovations.
Dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe.
As a result of Israeli restrictions on humanitarian aid, people in Gaza are now starving to death.
Meine Arbeit für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin.
So remember, when people stand up and applaud, children, women, innocent people in Gaza are now starving to death.
Habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit verwendet habe im Dienste meines.
According to the best available research, drawing on leading experts from the UN and other aid organizations around the world, some 495,000 Palestinians face starvation. These groups estimate that more than 50,000 children require treatment for acute malnutrition and are at risk of starving to death. At least 30 documented, and I suspect it's a lot higher number
Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt.
Than that have already starved to death. So you stand up and applaud that guy.
Für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Remember the starving children that he has created.
It is hardly necessary to argue with those eternal blockheads who maintain that an unarmed Germany would, owing to its impotence, not have become the victim of this Jewish international world plot. Such reasoning would amount to a reversal of all laws of nature. When was a helpless goose ever not eaten by the fox because she was constitutionally incapable of harboring aggressive designs? And when has a wolf ever reformed and become a pacifist because sheep do not wear armor? If there are still bourgeois states who earnestly believe this, that only proves how necessary it was to do away with an era that by its educational system managed to cultivate and maintain such notions, nay, even granted them political influence. The fight against this Jewish Asiatic Bolshevism had been raging long before National Socialism came into power.
But even those who get the life-saving care they need, the children, will carry the scars of this disaster for the rest of their lives. As every psychologist will tell you, a child's brain develops fastest in the first 2 years of life, and childhood malnutrition does lifelong cognitive and physical damage. That is what Netanyahu is doing to the children of Gaza. And I would ask my colleagues to stop for a moment and also think about the psychological damage this war has done to the children there. Imagine being a child living with the constant buzzing of drones above your head, wondering whether those drones are going to rain fire and bullets onto your home, wondering if they might strike you at any moment. Imagine being a little 5-year-old, witnessing your relatives killed, your neighborhood destroyed. Think about being a 10-year-old, going hungry night after night and searching around for water and for food to survive. Think about being pushed from one place to another, not knowing where you'll be tomorrow, carrying your little belongings, your few belongings through streets, running with sewage amid piles of rubble and trash. That is what Mr. Netanyahu, the man Congress is honoring tomorrow, has done to the children of Gaza. According to the UN and virtually every humanitarian organization functioning in Gaza, Israel has intentionally blocked humanitarian aid, including food, water, and medical supplies, from reaching the desperate people in Gaza. And let us be clear, there is no excuse for this. Blocking humanitarian aid, killing aid workers, and creating the conditions for starvation. These are not only acts of extreme cruelty, but they are clear violations of both U.S. and international law. They are war crimes. They are war crimes. And Netanyahu heads the government that has enacted these policies. So tomorrow, Madam President, when Netanyahu comes before Congress, I hope that for 1 second, the members who attend will focus just for a second on the starving children in Gaza. I hope while they applaud that they will think about the hundreds of aid workers killed, the dozens of hospitals bombed, the housing destroyed, and the universities obliterated. Madam President, when Mr. Netanyahu rises to speak tomorrow, I also hope that my colleagues remember that all this death and destruction is not just the unfortunate byproduct of a brutal war. Revenge and destruction are the explicit policy of Netanyahu's extremist right-wing government. 2 days into the war, 2 days after October 7th, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said, quote, this is a direct quote, "I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals, and we are acting accordingly." End of quote. And that is exactly how they have pursued this war. They define the Palestinian people as human animals. And tragically, they have acted consistent with that view. Madam President, let us remember and understand that the Israel of today is not the Israel of the past. It is now run by a right-wing extremist government. National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, the man who oversees the police, has long advocated for the forcible expulsion of Palestinians from the region. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, the man responsible for the occupied West Bank, is also an extreme racist and has called for the expulsion of Palestinians from the land. He has called for segregated hospital wards for Jews and Arabs because, quote, "Arabs are my enemies," end of quote. And that is the man who is in charge of the occupied West Bank. And that is the current Israeli finance minister as well. Madam President, it should come as no surprise that this extremist government, in addition to destroying Gaza, has overseen record Israeli settlement in the occupied West Bank in violation of international law and commitments to the United States. Israeli forces and vigilante settlers have killed more than 500 Palestinians in the West Bank since October 7th, including 131 children. Just last week, the International Court of Justice issued a ruling on the Israeli occupation of the West Bank. A panel of 15 accomplished judges from around the world confirmed what most of the world has long known: that occupation is illegal and must end. I know that there are some here in Congress, not many, but some, who have condemned Netanyahu and his extremist government. But condemning Netanyahu is not enough. We cannot condemn a prime minister who the ICC considers to be a war criminal, while at the same time continuing to provide his government with tens of billions of dollars in military aid. That is hypocrisy at its worst. Just today, Madam President, I'm happy to say that 7 major trade unions here in the United States including the Association of Flight Attendants, the American Postal Workers Union, the International Union of Painters, the National Education Association, the Service Employees International Union, the United Auto Workers, and the United Electrical Workers, some of the largest unions in America, representing some 6 million workers, sent a letter to President Biden calling on him to immediately halt all military aid to Israel. And they are absolutely right. Netanyahu is a right-wing extremist and a war criminal who has devoted his career to killing the prospects of a two-state solution and lasting peace in the region. He should not be welcomed to the United States Congress. On the contrary, his policies in Gaza and the West Bank should be roundly condemned, and his right-wing extremist government should not receive another nickel from U.S. taxpayers. Thank you, Madam President, and I yield the floor.
Under the previous order, the Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.